Well, when talking about God, well, that really is theology. Theology means a word about God. So when we're speaking about God and we go into a theological context, it can open up a lot of categories, but perhaps the most important thing we need to know as we talk about God is that God is spirit. Understanding that God is spirit helps us to understand and comprehend so many different things that are taught in formal theology about God, his essence, and his attributes. And we'll touch on some of those, but primarily we need to start, first of all, with understanding that God is spirit. Jesus said in John chapter 4, God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. In Psalm 104, it says, he makes his angels spirits, his ministers a flame of fire. In Hebrews 1, verse 14, it says, aren't they all ministering spirits? He said, first of all, to which of the angels did he ever say, sit on my right hand? Talking about how Jesus is not an angel, he's the Son of God. But when he says about the angels, he says, aren't they all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation? This talk of God is spirit, his angels are spirit, this talk leads us to the conclusion that there is a world beyond what we can see. It's the spirit world. And the spirit world exists because God is spirit. Now, God created angels who are spirits, but God himself is spirit. The American Indians always talked about a great spirit. They were onto something, because indeed, God is the great spirit from whom everything else comes, whether spirit or matter. And when you think about God being spirit, and that the spirit world of God's existence, he is, that's what he talks about, he is. He says, I am that I am. And talk about the spirit world where God exists. There's also a world where angels exist, and it's a world that's not visible to us because we live in a material world. We live in a time, space, matter universe. Of course, when you go to Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, well, time started with creation. God created the heavens, the earth, space, and matter. And time, space, matter, that's the universe in which we live. Now, because God is the creator of this universe, and God is spirit, we need to understand that spirit existence, God himself, and the spirit world that is beyond our eyesight, is probably, no, not probably, quite precisely more real than the world we see. The world we see, time, space, matter, was created by God, the great spirit, Alpha and Omega, the original. He is timeless, he's not confined by space, and he is not matter. So the existence of God is in a world beyond our eyesight, which makes it that much more incredible that John chapter 1 tells us the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. God became a part of this world through Jesus, makes the incarnation, or Jesus becoming flesh, the Son of God becoming flesh, a very remarkable thing. Because God stepped out of the solely spirit world and into the time, space, matter universe in which we live. Now, we do know that God has created man, body, soul, and spirit. There is, whether we want to believe it, whether we deny it, there is a spiritual part of the existence of man. We have within us a spiritual part of our being, and it goes beyond our material world, and it's what goes beyond when this physical body dies, no longer functions. As Job says, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that he'll stand at the latter day on the earth. And though after my skin, my flesh, worms will consume my body, yet in my flesh I will see God. Wow. There is a spiritual connection between our bodies and God, and someday we will be perfect in body, soul, and spirit. The Bible tells us, absent from the body, present with the Lord. What does that mean? When we leave our bodies behind temporarily in death here, our spirit goes to dwell with God. When Jesus comes back and there is a resurrection, our bodies in a resurrected form, no sin, all glory, will be united with our spirit, and that is the beginning of our eternal existence. So when we think of God as being spirit, it opens up all kinds of things. First of all, obviously he's the creator of the world in which we live. And when we understand he's the creator of the time, space, matter universe, he is not bound by time, space, matter's rules. He's beyond that. Time is not something that he is a slave to. He created it. Space is not something he created it. And all that we see in our universe, no matter how vast, no matter how small, is something that God is beyond because he created it all. And I think when we understand the what some Christian philosophers have called that God is wholly other, and they have a point there, in the sense that God is spirit, he is very different. In the sense that God is creator, he is very different. And yet this great spirit creator wanted to have people, a creation, that would communicate with him, that would love him. And that is an amazing thing. But we can use this understanding that there is a world beyond our eyesight, and very different and other than what we imagine, not controlled by the laws that we have in our material world. When we understand that, it also opens up our understanding to the omnis of theology, the omnis of God's being, and we'll take up the omnis at another time.